Hey everyone, welcome to Nebraska Shoot Around, where we talk Nebraska basketball. Talking the men today, and well, they're undefeated, which is what they should be.
First time since I was like a year old.
91, 92,
92, 93.
I keep messing that up.
I know you do.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's like the fifth time I've messed it up. So 92, 93, and that was Sek Henry and Ade Daganduro, right? I'm way past. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, we've already passed that part where that team is comparable.
Yeah,
they moved beyond it to Danny Needs.
Needs team. Yeah, we're not. All right.
Hey, Nebraska's
it's
a lot of first time.
Often.
Yeah, the first time in a while that Nebraska has won. It's only like 4 times they've started 7-0, something like that.
It's only 4 times.
So
I think it's far less.
This is
than that with 8 in a row. Yeah. It's less than that with 8 in a row. So Stony Brook, easy win.
So interesting thing, Stony Brook, Colorado or Oregon State, 84-63 final score of both games.
Yeah, Nebraska scored over 80 in 6 of their 7 wins, which is awesome.
Yep.
I think that's really good. You would have not probably thought that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
So, but when the season started, so Stony Brook was kind of, it was.
They held them at 38% shooting.
Yeah, it was a kind of a cakewalk, honestly.
Yeah. Bryce, Casey, Juwan Gary, all double figures, really efficient. Same with Rink Mass.
Yeah.
Anytime you got all 4 of those guys, or all 5 of those guys, 4 or 5 of those guys scoring 14 plus points, you're gonna have a chance to win. Oregon State, huge run in the first half.
Can I tell you, Oregon State's not good.
They're really bad. They're really bad.
They're not a good team. Like, they just flat out. Like
that was up in Sioux Falls. You were up there.
Yeah, just the one game that I've seen them play, I was not impressed.
Yeah.
And the huge run in the first half. It was a home game.
Yeah.
For Nebraska, there was like 5 Oregon State people there. There was under there. I would probably put it at 8.
Yeah.
I kind of tried to look who's wearing orange, and it was not a lot. But
they were up 20 at halftime.
Yeah,
that was ball game.
It was not the big run in the first half. They just
story of the game was Bryce Williams. First real and he's been kind of working his way up to this.
Yes,
like you saw early on, he was still getting his points, wasn't efficient. He looked kind of uncertain out there. He really started to get on a roll from that Stony Brook. Like I said, he had 17 on 6 and 9 shooting, 9 boards, 4 assists. Oregon State, 25 points, hit 3 threes, 4 from the line. Was scoring in transition, offensive glass, putbacks, just kind of showing the whole package. Finally got the mid-range to go in a little bit.
Another Rink Mass double-double in that game. Juwan Gary had a double-double
as well.
That game. It was Casey Tominaga was 2 of 3, which is better than he kind of feels like he's heating up right now.
Yeah.
So at the right time.
Yeah, as we get into the next game, which is the first real test that Nebraska has faced this year, the best team they've played by a long way.
Yeah,
Duquesne.
Everyone coming into that game, including me, this is going to be their best team.
Yeah.
Like, Duquesne's actually pretty good, and it was the closest game they had.
89-79 was the final, but they were down 2 at halftime.
Yeah,
and
they had to fight through it.
Yeah,
like they really did.
They put up 50 in the second half, and there was some fouling and stuff at the end. They extended that game longer than it needed to be, but still. Nebraska won the second half by 12 after going into halftime trailing. Duquesne shot 44% from the field, 15 to 17 from the line, which not quite what they had been holding teams to. Oregon State shot 35%. Like I mentioned, Stony Brook was 38%. Like they'd consistently been good defensively. That game wasn't as what Day Grant had 24.
Right.
Going back to that Oregon State, Jordan Pope had 25. So
Jordan Pope kind of went off.
And we'll talk about that again with Fullerton too.
Yeah,
circle back to that. So just put a pin on one guy going off in each of those 2 games. But Tominaga 23, 6 of 12, and only 2 of 7 from 3.
Yeah,
9 of 10 from the free throw line.
Yeah, he got to the free throw line 10 times, which is very good.
Yeah, and
if they can handle him getting the free throw line. I mean, and Juwan Gary, again,
20 points,
and 5 rebounds, 7 of 10. He has been their best player.
Yeah.
Since he came back.
Yep.
So
I'll have the numbers here once we get through these.
Him or Rink have been their best player. But in that game.
And Josiah Alex. So 12 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, no turnovers. So you get
3 of 5 from the field.
12, 7 and 5 from Josiah, and then 20 and 5 from Juwan off the bench, and add in
4 spots. Pretty good.
Yeah. Add in Mass. Yeah. 10 points, 6 boards, 3 assists. Like that. That's a heck of a front court combination there. A little trio that they've been rotating through. And they basically are down to a 9-man rotation. Ramel Lloyd Jr. is off the inactive list. Hasn't gotten in the game yet. Eli Rice has kind of fallen out.
That's the one that I just didn't understand. Like, you burned the red shirts on those.
Yeah, it's a long season, so we'll see. And red shirt is always a kind of player and coach decision. It's like the player has to want to buy into it. Some guys would just rather get whatever they can and believe like, hey, I'm going to earn minutes as the season goes on, even if I don't have it right away. So that's something to keep an eye on. Is those guys are options with Ramel, Matar, and Eli as the season goes on. But right now, they
don't really need it.
Hoiberg, Coleman, Gary, and who else off the bench? And Wilcher, CJ Wilcher. Yeah. So those are kind of the 4 guys off the bench plus your starting 5, and that's kind of how it breaks down right now. So,
and I don't know if those stars are going to change. Maybe Juwan eventually they put in there, but I think they like him.
The dynamic,
bench.
The dynamic has been really good so far.
Brings some really good energy off the bench. Like sometimes it's okay. Right? Like
no reason to mess with it.
Again, against Fullerton, he played more minutes by 1 than Alec did.
If he buys into that role, then there's nothing wrong with being a super sick man.
I think they like that. Yeah. Like I think it's, and again, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like it's really not that important.
And the last game was the Cal State Fullerton 85-72 win.
Shot really well that game.
So we mentioned
Fullerton again.
Guys going off. Max Jones.
He was hitting everything.
30 points on 10 of 19 shooting, including 5 of 7 from 3 and 5 of 7 from the free throw line. He came in shooting, like he led him in scoring, shooting like 30% from the field.
Under 30% from 3.
Yeah. And they just really had no answer for him. So now we've seen that 3 games in a row where ultimately the team defensive performance was good enough to get the win. They haven't really had an answer for the other team's best player.
But that's something Hoiberg said after the game. He said he looked like he was he didn't really look like he gets upset very much, but he looked like he was pretty frustrated with their defensive performance. And he didn't bring it up just in the Fullerton game. He was talking like
back.
Now we have a couple games here where our defense hasn't been to the standard. Offense has been great.
Giving up over 70 in back-to-back games.
Yes, not good, especially against a Fullerton team. Again, Max Jones was 11 points shy of the arena record, which is 41. Like it's kind of, halfway, over halfway there at halftime. Things like that are very can be very concerning. But again, that's especially another game.
Offensive team like Creighton coming in.
Yes, that's another game. Jamarcus Lawrence had 11 points and 6 assists,
no
turnovers. That will do. It was 4 of 10. 1 of 5 from 3, not great.
And so
they really didn't. Okay, they were 12 of 30 from 3 in that game, but their misses were really bad.
Yeah,
like side of the backboard. From
so
the
you
corner.
And I, it's so funny because Juwan Gary finished with 13 again, 13.6 rebounds, so double digits every single game he's played this season.
2 of 7 from 3.
And he knocked down his first one. It looked great. Bottom of that. You and I both tweeted something about it.
Both tweeted something about like, oh man, his shot, if he can do this. And then
Hoiberg talked about it all the work.
Yeah.
Next 2 air balls.
Airball is next to jinxed it.
Finished 2 of 7 in that game, but he's still shooting 37% on the season.
Bryce Williams was very good in that game. And Keisei Tominaga, if he can score 17 points and
on 100% shooting
on 5 shots and don't miss, okay.
and Mass 19 points, 9 boards, 3 assists. So again, we talked about Gary, Williams, Tominaga, Mass. Again, all of them in double digits.
They're 3. They're 4, I guess, kind of scorer guys. That's just how this roster is built.
So kind of just overall, since Gary's been in the lineup, lead him in scoring 16 points a game, 56% from the field, 37% from 3, 69% from the line, and 7 boards.
He's played 4 games and he's the team's leading scorer.
Yeah. That's he's been phenomenal coming off the bench, changing every game. Mass.
But if that to that season statistics part, Gary, Mass, Tominaga, Williams, all averaging over 14.
Yep.
That's pretty good offense.
Yeah, all, like Mass, Tominaga, and Williams are all right around 15 points a game.
Right.
14-6, 14-6, 14-7.
Mass is averaging a double.
Phenomenal. Yeah. And where's he at there? 2.9 assists, almost 3 assists a game from your 5-man too.
Yep.
Tominaga, you mentioned almost 15 a game on 51 from the field, 40 from 3. Only 77% from the line because he went 0 for 3 at the line. Yeah, it was really weird. Dude barely missed at all last season. And Williams, 15 on 45% from the field, 42% from 3. Getting to the line fairly consistently, at least 2 times a game, essentially. And 2.5 assists as well out of that spot. So you mentioned Lawrence, and it does seem like he's starting to figure it out a little bit in terms of, all right, how do I play point guard and get the ball where it needs to? And Hoiberg mentioned he needs some guys to run with him a little bit more because he's got
first
pretty
half,
good.
He wanted more pace.
I think he's looked his best in transition. He's had some very good transition push and decision making.
In the second half against Fullerton, they got moving a little bit, and he liked that.
So Lawrence and Coleman combined 6.2 points to 3.0 turnovers, and that's with most of Lawrence's turnovers come in the first few games.
Right.
He's even better than that recently, like you mentioned. The problem there is they're combining 8.4 points on 30% from the field, 20% from 3.
Yeah,
neither one of them have found a way to get any kind of offensive efficiency going.
Coleman's at 15% from 3. You just let him take it.
Yeah. So if
prove me wrong.
We talked about the main 4 guys there. If they can get one of those 2 guys going, in addition to that, that's kind of the next step for Nebraska.
Still scored 80 points.
In addition to locking in on 3, it's just having some threat from that point guard spot to knock down shots or to just open things up for other guys to get even more shots for them. So if we're looking, all right, where's Nebraska stand at this point? That's an area for improvement because everything else has looked like, all right, this is what we were hoping it to look like.
3-point shot.
That, that, and then the defense kind of locking back into what we know they're capable of.
34.5% as a team. Again, so the number is probably 36 to 42.
Yeah, that's pretty average.
Pretty average.
They're right. So they're above.
They're
above the break-even point where, all right, it's fine to be taking them, but they're not. It's not. They're one of the better teams in the country at it, and their rate is very high because we talked about like their guards aren't great at breaking. Kind of like Creighton, they don't have guys that are great at breaking you down off the dribble. It's all off of their sets, their movement, their off-ball cutting, playing through the bigs.
One thing Nebraska's done offensively is the corner 3 has been there, and they've shot a ton of them. Like I don't know the exact number on the amount of corner 3s they've taken. I'm sure I can find it. But it feels like that's where the majority of their 3-pointers have been taken from. So
that would be something. And on the defensive point, Nebraska's 96 in Ken Palm on defense. Where we said how close they were on offense. Creighton's still 25th on defense.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where the gap is right now with Nebraska's Creighton scheme.
Sunday there could be a lot of points.
Yeah,
both teams in the 80s.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Which for a game that normally isn't.
Yeah, no, it's normally the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, that would be fun. It's going to be, the environment's going to be awesome. It's going to be a really fun game. I'm intrigued. Obviously, the matchups are pretty cool.
So in last year, what Nebraska did to beat Creighton is basically the Colorado the game plan of dare you to make 3s. Right. We're gonna trap, we're gonna collapse on Kalkbrenner, and he was sick anyway. But so it wasn't like that was a game where you could do that to Creighton more last year than you can this year, as we've seen through 6 games. It's worked once because everybody's trying to take away Kalkbrenner, and they scored 80 in every game except for this last one. So in the way that Nebraska likes to double and then fly around and chase guys off the line, it'll be curious to see how Creighton attacks that and kind of counters that.
Of Mass, Kalkbrenner, again, Trout does Trout guard Trout guard Mass because of the 3-point ability, and you want to keep Kalkbrenner at the rim. But another thing too is like Nebraska doesn't really break you down and get to the rim. So what do you do? Defensively,
there's going to be a lot of like schematic things that'll be interesting to see kind of how these
Bryce Williams and Trey Alexander kind of going at each other defensively, I think will be fun because they're very similar build type of players.
So, yeah. So we will both be there on Sunday.
Yeah, we'll be there Sunday for that game. We'll have probably too much stuff for you that you'll want to hear, but we'll both be there. Jacob will cover it from the
Creighton angle.
I'll get the Nebraska angle. We'll probably do a post-game final thoughts video where we'll talk too much for probably about 10 minutes or so about the game, unless it's a blowout. Yeah. Then we won't talk about it.
But either way, we'll be back here next week to record here on Nebraska Shoot Around. And again, it's getting a little bit light once we get through the holiday. Get some breaks there for Creighton, some breaks there for Nebraska, but we will still record anyway and get you thoughts on as we get ready. Both teams get ready to head into conference play.